I'm Belinda Bowman.
I'm Jeremy O'Shea.
And we are Rebelstone Land and Livestock. We are a cash crop, cow-calf, and sheep operation here in Lucan Biddulph. We've got about 55 Angus cows and about 250 ewes that we run here. The ewes are all in the barn, and the cattle utilize about 40 acres of pasture. We started rotational grazing 3 years ago. We started with 20 paddocks, and that was for daily moves. The year following, we moved to 2 paddocks, so the north side and the south side, just because we had 2 little kids in the house and I couldn't be everywhere at once. And we got lucky that it rained lots and it worked out just fine. So we wanted to get back to more regular moves, more rest for each individual piece, and avoid the cow pass through the pasture. So we went to 6 this year as a trial. We may go up to 8 next year. Another little tweak we had to do, typically it's a 50-gallon water trough that moves with a paddock with the cattle. We had to go to a 350 because our water line runs all the way from the front of the farm. It's trenched in underground. The pressure wasn't just keeping up with the cattle, and we'd come back and find the water bowl upside down and some grumpy cows. So we moved to a 350-gallon water trough, which means we need a skid steer to move it, but it's a better setup for what we're doing here.
Yeah, so the bulk of the months from May to October, we're grazing here in the pasture. And on the shoulder seasons, we're trying to do some cover crop grazing, where we're utilizing cash crop acres. What this does is extends that kind of outdoor time. It helps spread a bit of manure on that ground without using any equipment. The cattle do it for us. We're using less bedding in the barns, and the cover crops help the overall soil health of the farm.
So to kind of help with our feed requirements for the amount of livestock we have here, we've been working with some neighbors and on some of our own land as well, utilizing Fringe Seasons. It's becoming a little bit more common process with livestock producers. You know, to neighbors that we're working with, it offers them a little bit of extra revenue for the land we rent off them. In times when they wouldn't typically use it, it adds that organic matter and the roots back to the soil, whatever we leave behind. We try to cut those crops high to avoid seeing any dirt pulled in with the feed when we're producing it. We've started including corn silage actually in our feeding program here as well, which wasn't something we were doing in the past. But dollars per ton, it's one of the cheapest feeds we can produce. It also gives us the opportunity to put rye in behind it. So again, that's another fringe season crop. It keeps the ground covered all winter. So that's kind of been one of our biggest goals here, is to keep everything green 365 days of the year.
When it comes to challenges here, one of the biggest challenges was that first year being on this pasture. New seeding hadn't really hardened off a lot, and we were in a kind of a droughty period there for, I want to say, 3 or 4 weeks. And then we got a big rain and everything grew fast, and the alfalfa especially caused some pasture bloat.
It was not a fun day.
No. We
had the vet out twice. We had a bunch we had to treat, monitor, and then we had to use a water additive actually to help protect them for the next, we did it for the next month, more for my benefit from a stress perspective, but yeah, it just prevented that gassy buildup. A couple things that we've tossed around quite a bit, we haven't implemented yet, is interspecies grazing. There's a lot of benefits to doing that. So the sheep work well with the cattle in terms that majority of the parasites that one species carries, the other can't pick up. They also kind of favor different species within the grasses that we're grazing, so we would see maybe a little higher consumption of what we've got. Couple challenges with that. Sheep are mischievous. That's a nice way to put it. So we would definitely have to change our fencing system here, so we would need to add a couple more lower strands. And again, the struggle with that is as the grass grows up, it starts to lower the voltage on the fence. So is it going to be enough to keep the sheep in without having to go to like a page wire system? So it's not just turn some sheep out and see how it goes process.
So one idea we are exploring and we'll probably pull the trigger on is these solar powered collars that go on cows, and you can basically create different areas for them to stay in. This is a system where you have an app on your phone and you can literally draw your area you want to graze. So if there's an area with higher organic matter and it's growing faster, you can concentrate the cattle there for a day or a few days, and then you draw your next zone and move them. So you kind of have a little more control on when and where, and a little more flexibility. It also allows you to use it on other fields that aren't set up for rotational and grazing. So whether we're grazing a cover crop field or after corn.
It would help prevent bloat too in a system like that, right? So cows are naturally going to go through, and instead of eating the stalks, they're going to eat all the corn they can find on the ground first. So this would force them to eat in one specific area rather than eating all the corn first and then moving to the stalks.
It aligns with our overall environmental goals for our operation.
Yeah.
Trying to be doing things in the most sustainable way we can, and I think we're always searching for ways to improve that, and this has been a piece of that.